The supernatural world is more real than the world we see every day. And hopefully tonight in this podcast, you're going to get a glimpse into that world. We're going to be talking to a gentleman who had a horrifying encounter with what he believes is a demon. And this demon tried to take his life. But we know that the light is brighter and our hope is in Christ. And hopefully through this podcast, you'll see how he turned his life around and was able to walk out of that situation through Jesus. And in this podcast, we're going to be talking about those type of things, interviewing people that have had real encounters that absolutely change their lives and bring them home closer to Christ. But before I get into any of it, I just want to say thank you for being here. Welcome to The Prodigal. Let's jump right into this story.
So I grew up in the church and everything, grew up in Southeast Kansas. Just always in the church family and everything like that. We had went to a little kind of a fire and brimstone upbringing and everything, and so I definitely was taught to understand the nature of heaven and hell and good and evil. I was definitely taught all of that, and I knew I've known from a very young age that demonic presence is a real thing and angelic presence is a real thing. I knew that there was more to the world than just our kind of our physical side, right? But had never really experienced it quite like I did this night. So I'll go back really quick for my just kind of a setting the stage for who I was at this time. So I have been previously married, and so I was married to my first wife, and we had let's just say we got together under not the best of circumstances anyways. It wasn't really a healthy relationship. And so we were kind of both just kind of coexisting, right? We were kind of like living in the same space. If you'd ask my parents, if you'd ask her parents, we were doing great. We were in church, we were helping out, we were, volunteering here and there, but we knew that we weren't really in the headspace we probably should have been at that time, right? Wherever she's at right now, I don't know, but not my problem. So that to say, I was not being the man that I was supposed to have been at that time, right? And definitely not living in the way that I knew I should have been living. So, anyways, I was down here in Northwest Arkansas. I'd moved down from Kansas City. Was living in Springdale at the time, and I was living in an apartment complex down there, and working a bartender slash server job at a local restaurant that has since closed. But I'm sitting there and we got as kind of things progressively got worse between me and her. My life, I just kind of started looking for other ways and other avenues to kind of fill my time, right? Not cheating, not running around on her necessarily on a female perspective, but to say I was just filling my time with friends, with different activities that just weren't really the healthiest for me. Part of that being going out, partying, drinking, hanging out with friends, especially, if you've ever worked in the serving industry, kind of the hospitality industry, that certain crowds can be very, challenging to maintain a good upright moral status in. So that said, it wasn't uncommon at all for us to get off, the clock, check out, go home, but just go hang out with each other and like go out to Dixon Street. Things like that, go out party for a while until we'd shut down bars, 2 a.m., last call, and we were there. So, man, I'll tell you what. So we went out, and this one particular night, I remember I kind of just been going through the motions, right? Just kind of going through my normal, I guess, my normal everyday flow. And I didn't really think anything of it. I go over to my buddy's house. We're hanging out, we're drinking. There's a group of us over there having a good time. And, I go home. First of all, I should not have driven home. PSA for anybody watching this. If you know you're too far, don't risk it. That was dumb. But I will just say I made it home somehow by the grace of God. And I remember going into my apartment. Of course, she was already asleep. She was, she's in bed, whatever. She had kind of given up on me at that point, similarly, right? And rightfully so, probably. So I go in, I lay down, and I pass out. And that's where this whole situation begins. I don't even want to call it a dream because I don't think it was a dream. I really do. I think we used the term earlier of encounter. I really do believe it was because what I experienced next, I have never experienced before that, and I have not experienced the same since, although I've had kind of some variation on kind of just revealings, right? And so I fall asleep. And in this moment, I'm walking through what looked very familiar to me. There was a shopping mall in the area of my college up in Kansas City that was huge, just massive. If anybody's familiar with Kansas City or Olathe, it was the Great Plains Mall, right? And so we always called it the Great Waste of Space because half the shops were always empty. Well, in my dream, most of the shops were actually empty, and everybody it was like after hours, and I'm walking these hallways. I'm looking around. You can hear the little light, elevator sound and music in the background playing over the PA, but you can tell all the stores are shut down. You got your gates closed. Everything is packed up for the day, right? No one's in this mall, not even a security guard. And I'm like, well, this is kind of strange. I'm in here, I'm looking around, and I see this door, and I hear something in there. I was like, okay, well, maybe somebody's in there. Maybe a janitor, or maybe I can find somebody to ask what's going on here. So I go walking through this door, and as I walk in, I still remember this very vividly even now, right? So like I walk in, big kind of double wooden doors that you would see like on a classic building. And I go walking through, and I'm underneath like this balcony area in a theater, like a performance theater. And so there's a stage up front, curtains and everything. That's actually kind of why I did the red light, because we got the it was very reminiscent of just this Broadway, almost like a Gershwin theater kind of look in there. And I remember walking in, I'm looking around, can't see anybody, and suddenly I look up on the stage, and there's this guy standing over to the side of the stage. And you ever seen those little like Josh? You ever seen those silhouette cutouts, right, of like the cowboy that people like? It was really popular, like what 20 years ago or so. There's Sasquatch ones, but it's a plywood that's painted, black, and it's just usually up against like a building or a tree or something like that. Well, I look up and I see this silhouette cutout of this dude, and he's just kind of chilling there. He's got one foot up behind him, and I was like, "Excuse me." Nothing. Didn't hear anything. "Excuse me. Hey, can you hear me?" And he's like, "No movement." I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm talking to you." And about that time, he turns to look at me. He's got his hat on and everything. It's like a fedora or something like that, right? Kind of turns to me and he looks. But as soon as he looks, I get cold. I mean, like, so cold. I remember, I remember this to this day, just that feeling of like something's off. And as he looks at me, his eyes were literal fire, like little flickers, just like that. And I was like, that's not good. And I remember even in this state, right? So reminder, I had come home drunk. I had come home completely in a state of mind that I shouldn't have been. And then he smiles at me, and he just you just see him just go, just kind of smiles. And his teeth, I'll never forget, were like these. You ever see like a Venom from Spider-Man or something like that? Those long, sharp, slender, pointed teeth. And he's just like looking straight at me. And I was like, I am in trouble. I just remember this feeling of like, I won't say the words on this podcast, but you know what I was thinking. It's like, this is real, and this is really serious. And so I go bolting out of this door, right? I turn around, I'm booking it back out into this hallway, and I go tearing down this hallway, right? And in front of me, I'm like, we're running through. And if you've ever been in an indoor shopping mall, they got those little hallways in the middle, little corridors that kind of go to the bathrooms that are always every so often are spread out, whatever. And so out of one of those little hallways, I had two dogs at the time. This silly fact, but I had two little dogs. And Gunner and Sadie, they come running out from this little hallway. And I was like, why are my dogs in my dream? Why are my dogs in this mall? I was like, oh, Gunner, Sadie, y'all got to get over here, because there's this dude over here, and he's bad news, y'all. We got to get out of here. And they look up at me, and they're probably 100 yards off from me. And their eyes and their teeth are the same. Like, when I say fire and sharp, like, whatever, bro, you talk about getting real scared real fast. So I'm going through there, and I was like, okay, they're in on it too. So I turn around, I'm like, Okay, that guy's back there. They're up here. They're walking towards me. They don't need to run. That was the other crazy thing. They don't need to run after me. They know they've got me. They know that they're up there. He's going to close in on me behind. And I just remember feeling this panic feeling, right? Of just like, this guy is going to get me, or the dogs are going to get me, or something. And so we go, I turn around, start kind of looking the other way, like maybe he hasn't come out yet. Nah, he's come out that door. He's walking towards me. And I turn around, of course, the dogs. And it's like a movie scene, right? Everybody's coming in, they're closing in on me. And right about the time, fast forward a few more moments here, but right about the time when they're both gaining, we're talking like less than 10 feet from either side of me, I kind of like turn around, I see him, but then I just woke up. And in that moment, I sprang up. I remember springing up in my bed, bolt straight up, 90 degrees. I'm sweating. I'm dripping sweat at this point. No doubt, probably from the drinking, but also from this intense encounter that I'm going through in my brain and in my soul. And I'm sitting up and I'm like, that was weird. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like thinking to myself, going, okay, that was the craziest dream I've ever had in my life. All right, I'm okay. I'm at home. I'm safe. I'm good. All right, let's go back to bed. Bro, I'm telling you what, if you ever have seen, I guess, a movie or anything where like dream sequences are just very vivid, again, this was far beyond anything I've ever seen in my life. The moment my head hit that pillow and I closed my eyes, the second my eyes went like this, in my dream, in that experience, his eyes right, I'm talking in front of me. Like when I closed my eyes, I could smell his breath. I could feel his breath on me. And he is right here in my face. And I can just, and again, man, I mean, even just telling this, it's just like, is real. And the next moment, as soon as I see his eyes, I'm like, I got to wake back up. I wake up, but this time I can't bolt upright. It felt like a 400-pound person sitting on my chest in that bed. And so I'm sitting there and I am gasping I'm trying to gasp for breath. I can't even. And so I'm sitting there and I feel this significant weight. Something is crushing the life out of me. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, well, if I can't get up, at least wake her up and get her to help me, do something. I can't get my arms to move. I'm pinned. I'm like straight up pinned. We're talking like whatever it is has me held down and I can't move. And in that moment, I'm just sitting there going, this is how I die. This right here is how I die. She's going to wake up in the morning and she's going to find this dead body next to her. And in that last moment of just like going, what do? I did remember enough. And believe it or not, y'all, whether or not you are a believer in Christ, I'm here to tell you it's real. He's real. And in that moment of absolute terror, the only thing I could think of was to say, Jesus, help me. And literally the moment I thought it, I couldn't say it because I'm choked out. There's no breath in my lungs. And the moment I said, Jesus, help me, it was like that weight just got ripped off. And I sit up in bed and I could breathe fully. I could breathe deeply. There's nothing like the moment that I said it or thought it. And then I just sat there in bed. I'm just like, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I knew exactly what it was, like it, spoiler alert. It wasn't actually the alcohol. I don't think. It was the angry spirit that I had in me. It was the spirit of resentment. It was the spirit of, fast forward on this, but it was, the more I started unpacking who I was at the time, it was this spirit of discontentment, this spirit of trying to fill my void in my heart with all this other stuff, right? And I was angry at her. I was angry at myself. I knew who I should have been, but I wasn't being that guy. Now, obviously, alcohol can definitely take a big impact on some folks' life, and that is zero disrespect to their stories or anything else like that. But in my individual case, I really, the more I've talked to different pastors and different leaders and counselors, I don't think that was it. I really do believe it was just this spirit of just total rebellion in me. So that was kind of it, man. I mean, the funny part was, man, I'll tell you, I mentioned this the other day, and I forgot to tell this because it's a funny detail. I jump out of bed, right? And at that time, I had been drinking excessively. And I knew I had to eliminate every single opportunity for me to recreate the scenario I was in right then. And so I bolt out of bed at we're talking like 3 a.m. I'm running into my kitchen. This will sound funny, but I threw open the fridge door, pantry doors. Bro, I'm telling you, as a bartender, I loved experimenting with different drinks. I loved making up cocktails at home and trying to figure out how I could serve the customers better. I probably dumped about $1,000 worth of booze, whether it was liquor, alcohol, a beer, vodkas, whiskeys, wines, anything. Man, I dumped it all down the drain. I'm sitting in there literally grabbing stuff, just knocking the tops off, stuffing them in the sink. And my wife at the time, she woke up. She comes out. She's, "What are you doing out here?" And I was like, "It's all gotta go. It's all gotta go. It's all gotta go. It's all gotta go." And she's like, "Okay, sure, whatever." So, and then I went through a 9-month cleansing phase of just zero alcohol. Didn't go out to parties and drinking and hanging out. I did go hang out with some friends, but I actually had during that moment is the importance of someone who you can really trust to have your back. My buddy Danny always had my back and always still has my back. I've known him for years now, and even at that time, he's like, "Dude, come out with this, but I got your back. I will make sure nobody pressures you." And he sure did. He really showed up in that moment. So,
Brian, there's so much to unpack in that encounter, and it just kind of blows my mind. But the first thing that comes to my mind is mercy. And people be like, "Well, how can you say mercy? That was a nightmare. That was a horrific thing." But that horrific encounter, because it's an encounter. I mean, it's what it was. Saved your life, and thank goodness you had enough mentality and fortitude and your background to call on the name of Jesus, because there is power in that name, my friend. And we have nothing as believers to be afraid of, but man, that is incredible. What an amazing life-changing story. I bet it was hard to go to sleep after that for a while.
It was definitely very hard. I think I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly when I fell back asleep, but it was probably close to 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I was probably sitting up for at least an hour and a half after that, because my heart was racing. And what was interesting too is I had peace about not having peace, right? Like, I knew something had to change. And I feel like that was definitely one of the encounters, one of the moments, I guess, that really kind of helped push me back toward God, or draw me back into Him, and becoming the guy I should be. Now, admittedly, I definitely went on for a few years to just be selfish, to turn to y'all. Codependency is real. If you don't know what that is, it's finding your value in what you can provide for other people. Trying to fix their problems for them, and they don't want help, right? They don't need that help. They're not ready to receive that help. But I definitely had codependency latching onto me forever, and I do believe that is a demonic presence too. I think that's something that crushes the spirit to keep us away from who God designed us to be. And admittedly, like I say, I definitely went on and had some other broken relationships and everything, but thank God he pulled me back in. And about age 33, I'll be 40 this year, but age 32, really, was when he called. It was really just like drawing me in, and by 33, man, I was like, okay. And then somebody pointed out the other day, they're like, you do realize Jesus lived to be 33, right? And I was like, man, he was at his prime, and I'm just starting to figure my life out. Good. You, woo, all right, good job.
Yeah, I mean, I guess better late than never. That's it's hard to live up to that. That's a hard standard to live up to. You brought up some good points, man, and I firmly believe that a lot of the actions we do in our flesh are open doors to demonic presence and things in our lives. And I think that, man, I just think there's too many Christians walking around and they've got their mind and eyes and hearts closed to this world that we can't see. And things that we do in our life every day affect not only us, but they affect our family and the people that are in our lives. And I think that as a man, as a husband, and as somebody who's the leader of your home, I think that whatever you do affects those people, and whatever you let into your life directly affects them. And it's awesome though that God, no matter how long it took you, doesn't matter, because I think he's always cleaning out our hearts, man. He's always working on us, and I think all he wants is somebody who's willing to strive towards that mark. And man, props for you, man, to do that and to walk in the light you're walking now, man, because it's a journey, man, and everybody has to walk through that journey and do those things. I know, man, codependency is a real thing, and it wreaks havoc on families and relationships. And I believe you, just like you do, that's a demonic thing. And I think that, man, me and my wife were talking about this the other day, and, you talk about people that are afflicted with, and not everything, obviously there's some things that are just a physical thing, but you talk about people who have, seizures or that are bipolar or that have all these other things, man, like sometimes those are demonic things. And, Jesus himself cast a demon out of somebody who was having a seizure. Like, if that doesn't tell you that, these things hate us. We are made in the image of God, and they hate us. And so why would they not afflict our body and our lives? So
yeah, exactly. And to your point there, man, I mean, for anybody listening, I think, there is that fine line, and you and I've had this chat before, just like, there's that line of like, obviously that in this world, the scripture tells us in this world, we will have trouble, right? So there's going to be stuff that afflicts us no matter what. Sin or, sin in, whether it was driven by that or just by living in brokenness here, right? But yeah, man, I tell you, I kind of wonder, I'm definitely one of those folks that wonders how many of the afflictions that we have today, whether that's, different cancers and stuff like that, that's definitely not the way God's plan originally was. That's not what he designed us and how he designed us to be. And so I'm not ever going to say I blame someone else's, like, oh, hey, well, you got cancer. Must have been, flirting with Satan or something, like you must have been flirting with evil. But at the same point, I go, man, the devil's, they say, he's like a roaring lion, right? He runs around trying to see who he can devour. So he's sneaking around. He's trying to figure out. And if he can't make you bad, he's going to make you busy. And if he can't make you busy, like he's going to break you enough to where you're busy focusing on you and your health and your wellness and everything. I think my grandpa, right? My grandpa, he's 92. He's almost 93. And what's funny is someone in his position, he's got congestive heart failure. He's got stage 4 kidney disease, all this other stuff going on. And it would be really easy for him to just be a broken old man, right? Like he could be easily just angry at life. But it's funny because he's had to make some trips to the hospital even recently, and just some emergency situations come up. And even in those moments, we've had the nurses and the medical staff there at the hospital say, your grandpa, or, talking to my mom, your dad, whatever, he's just a blessing. Like, we don't get people like him in here. We don't get people like his kind, because we're in here treating him like trying to keep him safe and comfortable and everything else. And he's sitting here asking, while we're administering IVs or whatever else, he's asking, how are you? And can I be praying for you? How can I be praying for you? What's going on in your world? And so I hope I can live up to that one day. But again, that goes back to, I feel like Satan can throw all these different things at us, right? And yet it's really up to us if we let those things get us down, or if we just say, hey, that's just part of life right now. And despite all of that junk, I'm still going to focus on loving people the way Jesus loves them. So, anyway.
Dude, that's powerful, man. Good word. And I firmly believe that, I think we carry, if we're children of God, we carry God with us everywhere we go. And you might be the only Jesus that somebody ever sees. You might be the only representation that they ever see. And I think it's so important as believers. We get so wrapped up in all the things and the things of life, and, bad stuff happens. And it, His word says it rains on the just and unjust. But I think our goal here on earth is to lead others to Christ and to let that light shine. And, I always try to think about that in the back of my mind, man. Like when I was a cop, it's kind of funny, but when I was in law enforcement, man, I can't tell you how many people, once I got on the back of the car and on the way to jail, like, you're a captive audience now, man. Listen, you're going to hear about Jesus. And, it was kind of a joke. Everybody's like, oh, that's that guy. He'll preach to you on the way to jail. But man, that's just like, hey, this is the perfect time, right? But I think that, it's awesome that your grandpa has been an example for you like that, man, because that's what we're supposed to do. And I do think that life sometimes is just hard, and life sometimes throws us stuff that is just not fair. But, the wages of sin is death, and we live in a fallen world. I mean, until we get to heaven, until we get home, this is just how it's going to be. And I think it's important to stay focused on that, man. But some good stuff, Brian. I appreciate you, man, being so open and sharing that encounter with everybody, man. That was a good one.
What's funny is I've told a couple individuals that story, but I've never actually thrown it out in a video or a podcast format like this. So good luck, pal. Thanks for listening. I hope it helps somebody, right?
Oh, it will, man. I guarantee somebody will think twice before they go to bed. I mean,
Well, and here's the other thing too, is to kind of just build on that. To obviously, if anybody wants to hit me or Josh up after this, feel free to reach out to us, because I'd be glad to share more of the experience that I had and everything too with someone. But I know we got limited time on here. But I think that's an area where I really don't believe that the average church today probably teaches the harsh realities of how real the metaphysical is today. It makes us uncomfortable, right? It makes us really uneasy to think that there was a 400-pound weight or whatever sitting on my chest, and it was a demonic presence, or it was otherworldly, right? It makes us very uncomfortable to talk about that. But I got to say, if we can preach and talk about the miracles that Christ performed, changing water to wine, obviously the whole creation story, everything that we have from God, from Christ, from the Holy Spirit. If it's easy for us to talk about that, we need to make it just equally as easy to talk about the other side of that, because it's very real. And I think, if anybody's asking, I believe there's a very, very, you've mentioned this on your podcast multiple times. There's a very real metaphysical battle going on in parallel to the world that we're in, right? Yeah. For the comic book nerds, that's a multiverse theory, right? So, but we got this whole thing going on right now, and there is evil and there is good fighting for you and for me and pulling us every single day. And if you don't believe that, man, or if you feel like you might believe that, then reach out to us, because good grief, it's real, and we'd love to share more. Whew.
Oh, absolutely, man. That gave me chills, honestly, talking about that and what all you just said. And it every day, man, before you even wake up, man, there's a fight and a battle for your soul. So just think about that. Like, there are spiritual forces at war over your soul. That is how valuable that you are. And I think that's the power of prayer and why prayer is so important. Because some people are like, well, what does it matter? Why should I pray? If God knows everything, what does it matter? I think it matters more than anything. Like, that is, people go to their prayer rooms to pray. And I know that I'm here today because of the prayers of my mom and my dad and the people before me that prayed for you. And so when you're praying, guys, you never know who that is going to affect. And I believe that we have the power to dispatch. It sounds weird coming out of your mouth, but I think we have the power to dispatch angels to protect people, the power, the authority over those things. And I think that the church has done a really poor job. The body has done a poor job about talking about this stuff, right?
And that's not to say there aren't churches talking about it, right? There are a lot of churches that are talking about it. But the greater church universal, as capital C, the body of believers, man, we've kind of drifted away from it.
We have, and that's more real. You talk to anybody like yourself that's had an encounter like that, they'll tell you that was more real than the world we live in physically every day. Way more real. And I firmly believe that. I know firsthand. I've seen some crazy stuff. I mean, you've talked about it a little bit. But man, like if you're waking up every day and you don't have the blood on you, the protection of Jesus on your life, you need to wake up. It's time to wake up. And because this is war, it's a battle, and you're facing things you can't see, but we know the one who can, and we know the one who has authority, and that's important, man. And I think that was a powerful thing to share, man, because I think people need to do that. And like Brian said, if you're interested in talking about that, reach out to Brian, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. And that was great, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing more of your awesome episodes too.
Guys, thank you for being here. This is a brand new podcast. I have a lot of neat stuff coming down the pipeline. If you like these kind of encounters, make sure to like and subscribe. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming, but I appreciate you so much. Thanks for all the support. Guys, stay prayed up. So very important. We'll talk to you in the next episode.